Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar, and I'd really like to give you all a warm welcome. I'm Fiona Goddard. I'm the Senior Education Consultant at Math-Whizz. I am based in the UK, I am English, and I'm going to give you a huge apology now. I'm going to try my hardest to say math and not maths, but if I do slip up, please forgive me. I'm not doing it to annoy you. I also have Stephanie with me, who's going to introduce herself.
Hi, Stephanie Ernst. I'm the Education Success Partner here for the US. I've seen a lot of familiar names, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to discuss today getting started with distance learning. And as Stephanie just said to some of you that started to join us, could you please either on your phone or another device that you've got, just load the menti.com, because we are going to use that because we do want to get you to participate as well today. So hopefully there's going to be some interaction between us. And also the chat function, if you have any questions that you want to ask, if you type those in there, then Stephanie is going to oversee those, and there will be at various points when we will answer some of those questions as well. And just for those of you, I'm not aware of those of you that have joined, or whether you're a Math-Whizz user or not, but if you're not and this Math-Whizz is new to you, then please you'll find this session really informative because it's going to give you insights on how Math-Whizz works, but how it can support you as a teacher and your students and your parents. So I'm hoping that everyone's going to get some takeaways from this webinar. First of all, just really want to take stock, because these are really challenging times for all of us. There's a lot of uncertainty around, and I think a lot of us have more questions than answers at the moment. And as an education partner, we are deeply committed to helping you navigate these next few months. We know how anxious most of you are feeling about the disruption to your students' learning, and you're no doubt be thinking, how are you going to plan your students' learning from a distance? So what I'm sharing with you on the screen now is, at Whizz, we believe in the triangle of success. We're at the centre to be there to support you, but our triangle of success is the learners, the teachers and the parents, and we all have a part to play, and it's understanding that part that's really key. Now, you've got to have an understanding of how Math-Whizz works, because it very much acts like a human tutor. And first of all, the tutor diagnoses your students' knowledge gaps across several topics in an in-depth assessment, and then the tutor automatically creates a learning plan tailored to your students' specific needs, and then continually adapts. So if we think about our learners here in this triangle, with these current restrictions that we've got in force now, and obviously students are going to be accessing Math-Whizz at home, it's really important that they understand that actually that sustained use of Math-Whizz increases their confidence, and it's also going to accelerate their learning. So just by scheduling in 45 to 60 minutes each week, they are going to be making progress. Even though they're not actually within the school environment, they're still at home, it's still going to happen for them. And for you as the teacher, obviously you're doing the learning from a distance now, trying to support your students, but what Math-Whizz enables you to do is to actually see the data from them being on Math-Whizz. So you actually can have that live data just at a click of a button that can really then support you in intervening and supporting students if they need it. And you can see the progress that they're making as well. And then for the parents, I mean, this is a really difficult time for them, having to manage home learning with them and just all the different things that are being asked of them. If they've got Math-Whizz as one thing that they are using in their home, then they can be really reassured that their child is still learning in maths, and that's really important. And that hopefully take the pressure off them, as they know that their child's skills are still going to keep simmering, and they're still going to have new learning. Oh dear, I do apologise. Right, let's try again. Right, we're there. Okay, so the aim of this webinar really is to share with you an effective and efficient way to use Math-Whizz reports to inform your students' progress, and for you to then think of possible next steps for them. Now, we've written a guide to support you with this, and hopefully you will have access to that through some emails we sent last week. If you haven't, all of this is going to be given to you after the webinar as well. So you will receive an email tomorrow with all of the materials that we're talking about. But what's really important, I think, now is that, is to structure how we're actually going to monitor our students' progress and how we can supervise that learning from a distance. And that's what we're going to be sharing with you today. So we have decided that actually we want to keep this really simple for you. We are going to go into more depth in future webinars, but at the moment we wanted to make it time efficient for you, because I know at the moment we're juggling lots of different things, but we wanted to make sure that you have a good understanding of covering the basic essentials when looking in reports. So we've come up with 3 simple steps, and that's tutor, monitor and act. Now the tutor is about your students acquiring their core knowledge through their own individualised learning journey. And in order for that to happen, that's where scheduling is really important. So we're going to have a look at that in slightly more detail in a minute. The next part, so the next step, is monitoring. And this is about you as the teacher being able to track your students' progress. And this is where we can really start to look at the data maybe on a more regular basis, maybe more often than you used to, but really to start to maybe allocate a time each week when we're actually going to just look to see how our students are doing with their maths progress. So we're going to talk through different ways you can monitor that through looking in the reports. And then if we're doing that monitoring, we're going to gain insights. And what the third step is act, where we are going to have a look at that data, gain those insights, and then intervene where we think appropriate to help support students, or even just to reward and to say well done to students as well. So there are lots of different actions that we can take in that step as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the first step, which is tutor, and we just want to make sure that we're all have the same understanding about what the recommendations to our students and parents should be when it comes to scheduling. So I'm going to hand over to Stephanie, and this is where we need you to get onto your Menti so we can do some voting.
All right, thank you, Fiona. As Fiona just mentioned, there's a code at the top of this web page. So once you get to menti.com, use that code and you'll be able to answer the question below. So we're really looking at your recommendations to your students. So when you're communicating with your students or parents, how much time or what are you going to recommend to them? So as you're going through and choosing your answer, I'm just going to explain some of our key metrics in Math-Whizz. So the first thing we talk a lot about is usage. It's important to know that students can get usage in 2 places. So they can get usage in the tutor, which Fiona has described. That's where they get new learning, or replay. Replay is really for, building fact fluency and just kind of consolidating their learning. So when we're talking about usage, make sure you're recommending tutor usage to your students. That's where they get the most out of the program. And that's also where they earn progression. So that's another key metric we have. A progression is really to show you when a student has mastered a topic. So they earn a progression in tutor mode by completing their exercise and a mini assessment at the end of their tutor mode. Wonderful, thank you all for participating. Give it a few more moments. Looks like so far we have 2 main answers. Anybody want to branch out? Looking good. Maybe 10 more seconds, Fiona.
Okay.
Oh, you already are showing the answers anyway. So yeah, as you can see, majority of people chose 3 by 20-minute sessions a week. And kind of something to note along with that one, we have noticed just by looking globally at all students, it takes about 18 minutes for students to earn a progression. So that means they're in tutor mode, they've completed the exercises and the tests. That takes about 18 minutes. So if they're doing 3 20-minute sessions, that's right on track with our recommendation of getting 3 progressions a week. That 3 by 20 minutes is also a really good way for you to, explain to parents on how to schedule it in. So what we're trying to do is create a routine for students in this time of just inconsistency and, all of these questions they may have. And then those routines turn into habits. Another high answer is the achieving 3 progressions to complete a gem. So students see progressions in Math-Whizz as a gem, just one of the ways to motivate them, which is really good. We want to see students getting about 3 to 5 progressions. And then the 90 minutes weekly, that is a really good suggestion. That's actually at the top of our range as well. So we don't want to see students getting too much usage. This could lead to burnout or, them just not retaining the information. But 90 minutes is a really good top range. And then I'm also really happy to see that no one chose achieving 10 progressions. This is a little bit of an unrealistic goal for a majority of our students. And again, that could lead to burnout, lack of retention and use of Math-Whizz. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to recap the tutor step, and as Stephanie said, the weekly schedule is important. Focusing on at least 3 progressions, is really what we'd advocate. But at least 30 minutes. But what we want to be seeing them is making that progress, and to make that progress, they've got to be achieving at least 3 progressions. The other thing in tutor mode, particularly with home learning at the moment and parents having more control over what's happening in the home, they're going to need support and going to need guidance. So we have also produced a guide for parents just to make sure that we're supporting them in how they implement it within the home environment. I think it's also important that parents are aware that they can get support by emailing our support team or on the live chat as well. That is all there for them, and our team are there, probably 24/7 to actually answer any questions that the parents have. So please make sure that they're aware that they have that as support as well. And then finally, what's also important, and I think particularly now with this distance learning, is to make sure that you yourselves as teachers allocate some time each week just to review the data in reports. We're not talking huge amounts of time, 15 minutes maybe maximum, but it just gives you a very good overview of where your students are. So the second step is monitor, and we are recommending that you just go to the comparison tab, the class comparison tab, so you can just see your whole class at a glance. Now, when you go to do this, just remember your reporting period, and we would also recommend during this time, if you're going to be doing it on a weekly basis, maybe just set it for the last 7 days so that you can keep up to date with their progress week by week. So we would recommend that the last 7 days is probably the best choice of reporting period. And then our 2 key metrics are the things that at the moment we'd advise for you to look at. So that's progressions and usage. And if this was my class, I would first of all look at the progressions, and I would just quickly scan down just to see who's making at least 3 progressions. If I've got students that aren't, then that's where I might want to have a quick look to see what their usage time is. If I've got students who are exceeding and going way, sort of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 progressions, I might also want to have a look at their usage as well, because I need to just monitor both of those key metrics. Now, what we've planned or prepared for you is a table, because we thought we really want to make this monitoring easy and quick, and we've just done this table so you can very quickly filter your students. So here you can see 3 boxes that your students should fall into. You've got those who are making the 3 progressions, you've got those who aren't making the 3 progressions but actually have low usage as well, and you've got those who are putting in the usage but aren't making the progressions. And we're going to go back to Menti, and Stephanie's going to take over from me again, just to find out what actions do you think you could put in place for these students in each of these different categories. So let's go
it'll be the same code that you just used. And then here's the table as well for your reference. So if you're just going through, just pick a box, and in your comment, if you just want to put A, B, or C with the comment that you're making so we know which box you're referring to, that would be wonderful. And then these are also represented in the Math-Whizz report. So as you're going through the reports, when you go to the comparisons, to the left of everyone's name is either, you know, a green circle, blue circle, or the question mark. So this is kind of the table representing those icons if you've ever wondered what they were referring to. But yeah, as you go through, pick a box. What action as a teacher would you take? And then we'll look at those shortly. And then Fiona, we don't have any questions yet, but now would be a great time to put your questions in the chat box if you have any, as we're waiting for people to submit their answers.
Yeah, you won't be able to actually click on a box. It's just writing A, B, or C, and then just put in a comment and just typing that in and then submit it.
Yes. Good, answers are starting to roll in. And here really it's just to kind of get the conversation started on what actions you would take as a teacher. So this isn't like a right or wrong kind of situation. It's really where we can share ideas from your perspective with the other teachers in this webinar.
Do you want me to hide the image yet, Stephanie?
We have about 5, so what do you think?
I guess we can start talking through, can't we? The ones
yes,
we've got.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, now they're really coming in. I love that first one, A, affirm. Yes, so once students are making that great progress, you know, just reinforcing that behavior. So we want to make sure we're not leaving out our kids who are achieving and doing what you're asking of them. And within Math-Whizz, you can actually send messages with virtual stickers to your students that they really love. You can also create, you know, certificates in Math-Whizz that you can email to parents as PDFs. So that's a really good way through Math-Whizz to congratulate them or whatever means you have as a teacher. So looking at box B, we're talking about low usage as well as low progression. So this really is just like what you guys are saying, is trying to get them, encouraging them to use Math-Whizz a little bit more, reaching out to the students or parents. Wonderful. And then C is where we have to do kind of the most investigating as a teacher. I agree with all of these statements. So we really need to dig in and see what's going on. Is it, you know, difficulty in the program? How are we using it? Are we spending enough time on that test to earn a progression? Lots of things. And you can go in and actually look at the student's activity history in these cases. Love that. Send them a sticker. Someone already knew that. Wonderful. Check in with the student. Perfect. Yeah, they might be stuck on a certain concept. A lot of times students think they can exit and go back into a lesson and it will be something that they like better. That's not true. So Math-Whizz knows what the student needs at that time. So there's really no way to skip around a lesson. Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any questions to be answering yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. Okay. So obviously all of us are aware that those children who fell into that C box where they've got good usage but they're actually struggling to make those progressions, it's those students that we need to delve a bit deeper. I mean, hopefully, you know, just by it should only be a few students, so you know, hopefully we're not having to go through the whole class, and because if we're getting the scheduling right for most of them, they should be falling, well, they should be falling in category A. We may get a few that just are dropping with the usage, but for C, this is where we need to delve. So what you need to do, if you click on the detail tab, that opens up far more columns for you to look at. And by doing that, we can then start to scan across and just see what's happening. Now, once again, we did say this was going to be time efficient. So the one place I would look first of all is quickly down replay usage, which is here. And I would just scan down just to check that my students aren't putting all of their time into replay, because actually it's in tutor where they actually make the progressions. So if they have been spending all of their time in usage, that just could be a really easy quick fix. But what Math-Whizz reports does for you is, if there are some students that are struggling in a particular area, it will mark or highlight the box red and flag up for you. And as you can see here, I do have some students here who are flagging up as red, and this is to do with the test. So this is giving me a good indication here that actually this might be part of the problem and why they're not making the progress. And if we focus in on Ella Wright, who is the third child down here, if I look, so usage is 29, 8 minutes in replay. So, we're getting there with the usage. But then when I scan across, I can actually see it's the test. She's actually not passing a lot of the tests that she's doing within the lesson. And that's going to be, an area I need to delve a bit deeper with her or with her parents, just to find out, what's happening. How does she complete the test? Is there a particular problem she has with the test? Is she actually answering the questions, or is she just putting anything in the boxes? So just delving a bit deeper to see if I can really help and support her there. Now, I understand you're not going to be able to do that for every child, but it should hopefully only be a few children that we're actually having to flag up like this and really intervene and support. So that's the insights we can get just by looking a bit deeper. I haven't clicked on any other tabs, and we'll go into the other tabs in another webinar where we can even delve deeper and looking at the topics and the lesson history. But we're just actually looking at the class comparison tab today. Okay.
Before you move on, we do have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So the first question is, when is it appropriate to skip a lesson?
For the child, or
right? Yes.
What I mean, the children, when they're on Math-Whizz, what happens is they have an opportunity to jump ahead. But to actually skip a lesson is not actually possible. They have to actually work through, they have to be able to complete the exercise and the test before they can move forward. So, but they do have the option to jump ahead. So I don't know if I've answered that question or if that's what was meant by that question, but
I'll add a little bit just from my own experience. So sometimes we do need to skip a lesson if there might be an error within the lesson.
Oh, okay, right.
So if it's not letting the student move ahead because it's marking an incorrect answer, correct, or vice versa. So sometimes we do have to go in and skip that lesson while it's being fixed by support. So that's only really when I would recommend skipping the lesson. When we do skip lessons, it doesn't skip it forever. So it will show up again. So if you're wanting to skip it because a student is not progressing, which kind of leads to our next question, is if the student is stuck on a certain concept, how can you support and help him to progress? This is actually built into Math-Whizz. So if they are getting the first few questions wrong, it does pop up with a very positive message that says, we all get stuck sometimes, let's move on to something else. And it'll either bring up a more foundational level to support or switch topics completely to avoid frustration. But when we get back to that topic, it will be at a more foundational level to fill in those gaps.
Okay, thank you.
And then just one more question. Does the program pause the time if a child sits with the program on but is not doing anything? Yes, and it's a very short amount of time. So I can't remember exactly, but it's like just a couple of minutes. If they're sitting there, it will start to time them out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to move now to the final step, which is ACT. And we've gained all these insights whilst we've been monitoring the data, and it's then thinking about what's going to be the appropriate action for our students. So one which came up a lot actually when you were giving your own ideas of what the actions that we could take, is it's really important to maintain consistent use with the students and for them to continue being motivated. You know, just implementing some rewards is really key. We've got different ways that you can reward them through Math-Whizz, but you also may have your own reward systems that you've set up, particularly with this distance learning, you know, and just rewarding them in that way, I think is just going to be really motivating for them. And, you know, you may have a system as to how you're going to do these rewards. So, you know, that's really important because we want to motivate all of our students. Obviously, with the action we spoke about for those children that fell into the group B, it's, you know, targeting low usage is really key. You know, just making them really understand how they need to schedule, and they might have to do this alongside parents as well, just to make sure that we really are allocating sufficient time for them to be able to complete at least 3 of the lessons, and that includes the exercise and the test. So it's just making sure that we can find incentives to get them to actually increase their usage. So targeting that, you know, is really going to help support our students. Now, we will have students who are going to be making far more than 3 progressions, and you know, as much as we love the enthusiasm, as Stephanie said earlier, we don't want them to burn out, but also it can be counterproductive because actually they're not going to be able to embed all of that learning. You know, some of that learning is going to be lost if they're on it for too long or making too many progressions. So actually, you know, if they are enthusiastic and they want to continue with some usage, then actually getting them to go on to topic challenge and just to consolidate some learning and, you know, to revisit some of those previous lessons, you know, that's going to be a really good channel of their time for them to really consolidate and have some really thorough understanding of the learning that they have been doing. These are our category C children, those who've got good usage but are struggling with with making the progress. You know, we're going to have to intervene, but it's going to be individual for each student. It's going to vary as to why they're not making that progress. So this is going to be more of a specific bespoke intervention for the students, where we might make contact with the student, depending on their age, or the parents, to really help and support and, you know, try and ascertain why they're actually struggling at the moment on Math-Whizz. And then the final one is about ways, particularly with distance learning, how we can differentiate the learning. And this is where you as the teacher can actually have some control, and you might decide that you want some individual students, or it might be a group of students, or even your whole class, that you want to actually direct them to a specific topic. And this is where you can actually use topic focus to actually choose a topic that you want your students to work on for a specified time, or 3 progressions. It depends whichever comes first. But, you know, that's a really good way to differentiate the learning, particularly if you want it to mirror some of the things that you might be doing in the classroom. You might want to direct the learning that way, or you might know there's a particular weakness within the class, and actually this is going to be a really good time to actually direct the learning to that particular topic. So that's another way that we can act in differentiating the learning as well. So this is just really to summarise. We've tried to put all the key points in one slide. So we've got the tutor, the monitor, the act. And I really hope this has just given you a real understanding of how Math-Whizz works, how important scheduling is, but also how really quickly we can take a look at the data and get a really good overview of where our students are, and then act and intervene where appropriate. So hopefully that's given you a really good overview of how you can really support your students from a distance at the moment in these current times. And before I ask if there are any more questions, I just want to direct you to just some key things really. You know, if you need support with distance learning, Stephanie, and your educational success partner, is there to support you. So please get in contact. You know, we really do want to support each and every one of you at this moment. And also, if you've got any Math-Whizz related questions, or if your parents have got any queries, you know, sometimes it's good just to channel that straight to our support team, who are there to support them. They can email, as I said, or they can use the live chat. And we are booking in a webinar for next week, so please look out for that. That will be coming out very soon so you can come and join us again for our next webinar. So are there any more questions, Stephanie?
We do not have any in the chat.
Okay.
Any.
Okay. Great. Well, I think we've managed to finish on time. So if there are no more questions, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found it informative, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining.